it. This is where I'll purge all obsession surrounding the Oracle.
あ、時坂さん。
なんでお前は俺の決意をくじくような登場をするかな。
そんなこと言われても。
Musky bowed.
家の前で何をしてたんだ。
雪かきをしてたんですよ。ゆかさんがいなくなってから。
Now that he mentioned it, there was indeed a shovel sticking up in the snow not too far from him.
手伝おうか。
I offered my assistance before I even realized what I was doing.
やめておいた方がいいですよ。慣れてないとすぐに腰を痛めますから。
お前だって10年以上やってなかったんだろ
う。すぐにコツは思い出しましたよ。
Musky grabbed the shovel and put his back into scooping up some snow.
やりますか？
いや、やめておく。腰を痛めて這いつくばったままじゃ、まるで弁も立たない。
何かするつもりですか？
Well, I'm up to something. Don't you worry about it. I looked up the Grand Hinagami estate.
お前のじいさんの容体は？
朝方に一回見舞いましたが、意識はありませんでした。
Musky hung his head.
そうか。見舞いをしても構わないか？
ええ。何も反応しないと思いますが。
一応、な。
An old man lay in a futon at the room's center. His skin was pallid as candle wax, his eyes were sunken in, and his breathing was uneven. He'd already looked like a man at the end of his days the last time we met, but even that had been nothing compared to this. Yuzuru was sitting next to him.
どうも。
君か。わざわざここまで来たのかね。
ええ。やり残したことがあったので。
Yuzuru didn't inquire further.
親父は見ての通りだ。君が何をするつもりなのかは知る。
あなたはおおよその見当がついていると思いますが。
わざわざ電信で君の元へ送った理由がそれか。警察がどうのというのは、やはり嘘っぱちだったのかな。
嘘ではありませんよ。現に遺体の身元は判明しましたし。
それを親父に突きつけるつもりだったのかな。
ええ。そのつもりでしたが。
However, one look at Hideyomi told me that it'd all but be impossible in his current state. I need to start looking to a plan B.
マリコさんはいらっしゃいますか？
祖母は部屋で休んでいると思います。
ではここへ。いや、重病人の枕元でする話ではないか。
では今へ呼んできます。
Matsuki got up and left the room.
あのリストから身元が判明したということは、
あなたが思っている通りだと思いますよ。
黒屋に行ってからは何も知らされていないよ。
Yuzuru shook his head.
ではあなたがひながみ家にいた時のことはどうでしょうか？
俺も兄貴もその印象にはうんざりしているよ。親父には悪いが。
Yuzuru's eyes shifted toward Hideyomi.
確かにしずるさんもひながみ家の印象については否定的な物言いをしていました。
こんな閉鎖的な社会はいずれ滅ぶだろう。いや、君が滅ぼしに来たのか？
文化は尊重されてしかるべきですが、それが個々の自由を押してはならないと考えています。
なるほどな。しかしその考えをおふくろが理解できるとは思えないが。
マリコさんも巫女だったからですか？
その質問には答えられないが、言うなれば文化を守るためだけに生きてきた人だからな。
Don't you give me the raisin Detra. Don't you fucking start using that phrase again. You're Japanese, not French. Knock it off. Those are exactly the kind of people who took away individual liberties.
あの人たちは今さら自由を与えられても無駄だろうからな。
今まで支えてきたものを手放せというのは難しいでしょうね。
Regardless, it had to be done. Just then the door opened, revealing Masaki's face.
時坂さん。
ああ。
Mariko was probably waiting for me out there. I got up and bowed to Yuzuru.
自分はここで親父を見ているので。
ええ。よろしくお願いします。
Sitting in the living room seat of honor was none other than Mariko Hinagami, the matriarch of the
お
household.
邪魔しております。
ええ。
Her face looked completely drained. She must have spent night after sleepless night, there we go, tending to her husband.
何のご用ですか？
東京でのことはお聞き及びかと思います。
カレンですか。
Mariko sighed.
なぜあのようなことをしたのか。
そうですか。あなたにならばわかると思ったのですが。
なぜそう思われるのですか？
先日、桐村由香さんが殺された現場で、あなたは証拠品の土人形を持ち出して壊しました。
たたりは怒っていないと言ったに過ぎませぬ。
Not even denying what she did, huh?
あの時は確か巫女がいないからたたりが起こることもないとおっしゃいましたね。
その通りです。
つまりカレンさんは巫女ではない、巫女になれないという。
巫女とはその字の通り、天から授かったもの。
Mariko shook her head. It appeared she wasn't going to budge on her story. As such, I'd have to switch tactics until I shattered the wall between
カレ
us.
ンさんが逮捕されたことによってひな神製薬も大きく揺らいでいます。
由々しき事態だとは思いますが、それはあくまでひな神製薬のことです。
She spoke as if that were all happening worlds away. Hinagami Pharmaceuticals was the pillar that kept the Hinagami family standing, yet the turmoil within it seemed to not bother her at all.
ですから綾人さんには一刻も早く家を継ぐ準備を整えてほしいのですが。
Don't say anything. Mariko's gaze swiveled over to her grandson. Masuki looked
し
away.
かしひな神家の伝統を何よりも重んじていらっしゃるあなたが。
何がおっしゃりたいのです？
Her eyes locked onto me this
綾
time.
人君の結婚相手は誰でもいいというわけではないでしょ
それは
Mariko's voice trembled ever so
う。
slightly.
しかしそれだって妥協の産物でしかありません。なぜならひな神家に嫁ぐ娘は全て巫女でなければならないのですからね。マリコさん、あなたも、そしてひな神リカさんも。
ひな神に嫁ぐ娘が。
Did she even realize that she'd basically all but confirmed that the Oracle married into the Hinagami family with that statement? I mean, this was the woman who was supposed to deny that notion no matter how badly I'd backed her into a corner.
一番重要なのはひな神の血を継いでいることなのですね。
She can't answer, can she?
カレンさんは巫女になりたかったのですよ。
I was taking a wild shot in the dark here. After all, I had nothing substantiating that Hideyomi and Mariko were siblings.
カレンは巫女にはなれません。
子供が産めないからですか。しかしそれでは巫女がひな神家に嫁ぐことを肯定することになると思いますが。
Honestly, I knew it didn't. Still, Mariko held her
こちらの
tongue.
風習を聞いた時から巫女という存在が気になっていました。しかしそれも種を明かせば簡単なものでした。ひな神家に生まれた娘をどこか別の場所へ移して巫女として育て、まだ確認はしていませんが巫女を育てたのは仕草神社でしょう。そうして巫女という神聖な存在を作り上げ。
待ってください。
Masuki abruptly chimed in.
今の話が正しいのなら
遺体で発見されたさつきさんの血液型は AA 型。
It was hard to imagine she'd been their younger sister since Ayato and Karen were twins.
そんな。
Masuki hung his head. Admittedly, I hadn't filled him in on all my latest revelations just yet, but that had to wait for now.
時坂さん、
Mariko turned toward me.
なぜあなたはこのように暴き立てるような真似をするのですか？
自分はこのひな神家に救うパラノイアを断ち切りに来たのですよ。
ひな神家は
ひな神家を存続させるために年派もいかぬ子を監禁して育てるのはすでに今の時代にはそぐわないものとなっているんです。
たとえそうであろうと、今まで受け継がれてきた伝統を途絶えさせるわけにはいかぬのです。
それは悪しき伝統です。それにこのままではあなた方のくだらない伝統とやらに巻き込まれた少女が、自分はひな神家の因習に翻弄されたもう一人のさつきさんを見つけ
Yeah,
出して
now
あげた
Masuki's
い
gonna
の
be
で
like,
す。
wait, other Sasuke?
もう一人のさ
Yep. Masuki's head shot right up as soon as he heard
いい
that.
ですかマリコさん。殺されたさつきさん、しかしもう一人ここに滞在している時に健康診断を受けた。
何ですか？
Mariko sounded truly shaken for the first time this entire
あ
meeting.
なたがご存じないというのは驚きですね。
And here I thought all of Hitogata's leaders were on the same page. So then did that mean only a select few of them knew about the body double? But why?
何か心当たりはありますか？
しずるがよそに作ったこの。
しずるさんはそういうことが多かったようですね。祖母によって殺されてしまった桐村由香さんを除き、他の被害者は皆ひな神家の血が入っているとしずるさんは認めてくださいました。そう、先日秀臣さんに尋ねた際には ゆかさんには資格がないと言われました。その時は彼女こそしずるさんの子で、
Yeah,
だからこそ嫁げないと思っていたのですが
that's exactly where my mind was too.
実際には逆だったのですよね。
Indeed, it was because she wasn't a Hinagami by blood. A concept that ran completely contrary to what society deemed acceptable.
なるほど。もう一人のさつきさんもしずるさんの子だった可能。
If an AA father had an AB child, and the mother had to have been either BB, BO, or AB. Might be an uphill battle trying to determine the mother.
まさか
Muskie finally snapped out of the musings he'd been lost in all this time.
どうした？
もう一人のさつきというのは綾子のことじゃありませんか？
綾子？
前に言いましたよね。しぐさ神社の土蔵に刻まれていた名前。
Alright, the one in the chest that concealed the secret basement.
さやさんは以前綾子とはさつきのことだと言っていましたが、
さつきさんの影武者としてならば一番最適な隠れ場所だな。
剣聖さんに聞けば何かわかるかもしれません。今なら確かに彼女が存在したという証拠もある。
しぐさ神社へ行くか。
Got off the floor and bowed to
お
Mariko.
騒がせして申し訳ありませんでした。ですが後ほどもう一度お伺いいたします。
Mariko simply glowered, not dignifying me with a response.
それでは失礼します。
Muskie and I climbed the stairs to Shigesa's shrine as I ran him the gist of everything I'd figured out recently.
ではさつきが二人いたことも事実なんですね。
Yeah, and don't worry, you managed to fuck the one that is probably not your sister.
おそらくお前が会っていたのは AB 型。遺体で発見されていない方のさつきだ。
Muskie stopped before the shrine archway.
正直わかりません。でもここで見たさつきの遺体も。
それは仕方ないさ。おそらく影武者としてそうできるように訓練されていただろうからな。
I gave Muskie a reassuring pat on the shoulder.
ここで死んでいたのは自分の姉だったんですね。
Technically, no.
そうなるな。
Well, actually, no. He said that Satsuki was Rika's child, right? So technically, yes. So I mean, well, no. Yeah, no. So technically, Satsuki would have been siblings with everyone but Naori. Because technically, she would share a mother with Ayato and Karen, but also would share a father with Yu and Megari. So other than Naori, she was a sister to everyone. Yeesh. There isn't even a single trace of any murders around here at this point. Regardless, we clasped our hands in prayer and wished happiness for the two women who'd lost their lives here in the next world.
あれ
Yayoi, garbed in a school uniform, was right outside the shrine.
どうしたんですかお二人とも。
お父さんはいるかい？
あ、はい。社務所にいると思いますよ。
Yayoi pointed to the now familiar one-story building.
君は雪かき？
I pointed to a bamboo broom sticking out of a pile of snow, like some modern parody of Caliburn.
まあ参拝客なんて来ないんですけどね。
Yayoi smiled sardonically.
昔は祭りの時じゃなくても誰かしら来ていたけどな。
やっぱり石段ですよ。集落にいる人がみんなお年寄りになっちゃって、ここまで上がってくる人がほとんどいなくなっちゃったんです。
まあ冬場は特に大変だろうな。
I myself had almost tripped several times on the way up.
おじいちゃんが亡くなってからは余計に少なくなりましたね。定期的にひな神さんから玉串料の奉納がありますから助かってますけど。
Yeah, the shrine was dead in the water without income from their parishioners.
俺も奉納していくかな。
でしたらあっちに奉納帳がありますんで。
前に来た時に書いたから覚えているよ。
Head to the shrine office. Mia had been manning the desk last time, but it was deserted now.
ちょっと待ってくださいね。
I picked up the donations ledger. Flipped through the pages to find that my previous donation was the last one that had been made. So no one donated, even on New Year's? In that case, the pages would likely stay mostly blank until the festival in March. Curious, I leafed back through the book to learn the Hinagamis had put down a donation for a sacred branch last March.
祭りは毎年行われているんだね。
やってますよ。やっぱりそれも年々規模が小さくなってるみたいですけど。
Yayoi turned to Masaki.
ああ、屋台も出ていたからね。
今じゃそういうのも全然ないんですよ。
I kept flipping through the ledger as I watched Yayoi pouting out of the corner of my eye. Some odd pages later, I found the pre-war records. The entry for March in the year the war began showed that the Hinagamis had donated a sacred branch itself rather than donating money for a sacred branch. I'd seen that one when I came here a few weeks ago, too. Meanwhile, they put in a 1,000 yen donation for a sacred branch in March the year before that one. That was a smidge over 1,000,000 yen when adjusted for today's inflation, enough to buy several new cars. It spoke volumes to how affluent the Hinagami Pharmaceuticals was, considering the average salary back then was 50 yen a month. However, it wasn't the size of the donation that was the issue.
巫女がいた時には玉串そのものが奉納されているようだな。
特別な祭りになるようですから当然かもしれませんね。その前はどうですか？
これより前に巫女がいた時期は
確か明治30年から36年までと大正10年から13年です。
大正末期か。
I checked the first page, but unfortunately it only went as far back as a monetary donation for a sacred branch from the Hinagamis back in March 1927.
古い奉納帳を見せてもらってもか。
Yayo, who'd been curiously listening in on our conversation, snapped her head to attention when I called for her.
多分あると思いますけど、昭和元年の3月が見たいんですか？
いや、それよりも前。というか、昭和元年に3月はないからね。
そうなんですか？
God, talk about a generation gap. Only been 3 weeks old when the Showa era began, and even I felt old. Incidentally, the first year of Showa had no March because it started on Christmas Day of 1926. I whipped out an old donations ledger. This one was from the Taisho era, the relatively short period from 1912 to 1926. Quickly opened it and discovered that the Hinagamis had donated a sacred branch only once, in 1922.
巫女がいたすべての年ではないのか。
Indeed, the records revealed the Hinagamis had only donated money for a sacred branch in the other 3 years Masaki had said the oracle was active.
もっと前の明治時代。
さすがに見当たりませんよ。
Yayoi shook her head. Then why? What made 1922 so special? Great question. So that would have been, what, 5 years before an Ayato was born? Roughly? Damn good question. That nothing comes to mind unless it was when, because they said, doesn't Reiji's notes say that Michio left the Shigasas in 1920? Isn't that the case? Michio. Michio. Where's oh, Michio. Yeah, some of the Shigasas ran away from Hitogata in the 1920s. So is that when Michio left the shrine? To go do his own thing? Perhaps?
まさき、新しい奉納帳でさっきの以外で玉串が奉納されている年はあるか？
それがさっきから探しているんですが見つからないんですよ。
財前恵子が殺害されたのは何年だ？
確か昭和4年。
可能性はある。大正期にあったたたりも確か大正11年と聞いている。
If the years of the curse and sacred branch donations aligned, the latter had to be some kind of code. One that would clarify the Hinagami family's hand in the former.
ないですね。
Masaki sighed.
昭和4年の3月は雛神家が奉納したのは玉串料だけです。
待て、大正期の巫女は俺の予想ではお前の母親の雛神理香だ。
昭和4年の祭りの翌々日に自殺したそうですよ。
犯人である可能性はやはり高いな。
そうですね。
Masaki scratched his head.
どうも自分の母親のこととはいえ全く覚えもないから何の考えも湧かないんですよ。
それは仕方のないことだろうさ。ただこの時期彼女はもはや巫女ではなくたたりを示すであろう玉串も奉納されていない。
俺ももう生まれてますからね。
So that was the reason she'd retired from the role of Oracle then. It had been the same for Mariko Hinagami when Shizuru was born as well.
よくわからないんですけど。
わからなくていいよ。これは新しい世代には引き継いではならないことだろうからね。まあこれは置いておいて俺が奉納するという話。
Took out a 100 yen coin and made it out as a donation for a sacred branch in the ledger.
ダメですよおもちゃじゃないですかこれ。
Do what? Oh, you practically shoved the coin right in my face.
いや、それは先月発行されたれっきとしたお金なんだが。
田舎者だと思ってバカにしてるんですか？
まああります。
Muskie produced the very bill I'd requested from his wallet.
また偽物じゃないですか。
板垣大輔に切り替わったのは4年くらい前のはずなんだが。
Just how far behind the times was this settlement?
弥生
Kensei emerged from the office right then.
お父さん、ひどいのよこの人たち。
何やら娘がご迷惑をおかけしたようで。
Kensei ignored his daughter and
い
bowed.
え、特に迷惑もかかっていませんから。
あれ？じゃあお父さん、これって本物のお金なの？
東京へ行ってきたのだからそのくらい見ていると思ったんだがね。
Kensei
どう
sighed.
も、健生さん。少しお話があるのですが。
うん。先ほども何やら調べ物をなさっていたようですが。
Kensei glanced at the donation ledgers on the counter.
まあいいでしょう。お寒いですから中へどうぞ。弥生は席を外すように。
あ、はい。
どうぞこちらへ。
Kensei led me and Masaki into the shrine office. Eventually, we seated ourselves on some cushions in a room with a wooden floor.
担当直入にお伺いします。
Masaki faced Kensei and looked him dead in the eye.
綾子とは一体誰なのですか？
どこでその名を？
戦後ここへ戻ってきた時、あの土蔵を調べて見つけました。先日来た時にはそこが埋められ、
彼女がさつきさんの影武者であっただろうと我々は見ています。
Kensei hung his head and sighed.
随分と調べられたようですね。
ええ。突き詰めると、こいつの犯行も発覚する諸刃の剣ではありますが。
I pointed to Masaki. Evans knew how tough all this was on him.
隼人君に罪はありませんよ。
健生さん？
前にも言った通り、さやさんは病気で亡くなりました。
他の件とは違い、こいつが起こしたことはまだ時効を迎えていません。
証拠になるようなものは何一つ残ってはいませんよ。
刑事訴訟上、被疑者が犯罪事実を自白さえすれば有罪を認定できるのですよ。
すでに終わったことです。
Kensei sounded hellbent on sticking to the story that Sai's death had been entirely natural.
まあいいでしょう。
Though I prayed that wouldn't be necessary.
綾子はさやさんが産んだ娘です。
Oh. Interesting. Kensei finally caved in.
さやさんが未婚だったはずでは。
She wasn't.
ええ。さやさんは巫女の世話をする森役でした。
ひな神家の長女をこちらで預かり育てるのですね。
そうなりますね。ひな神のリカさんが産んだ長女がサツキ、さやさんが産んだ子が綾子と
Why
言い
is
ま
there
し
a
た。
random little accent on the A there? Kensei grabbed a piece of paper and wrote Satsuki and Ayako on it.
そして二人をまとめたお客様の名がサツキ。
You wrote Satsuki under the two
巫
names,
女であるさつきさんと同じ音を持ったのですね。
which would make them two sides of the same coin. The Oracle Satsuki face up and the body double Ayako face down.
彼女の父親はやはり親父ですか？
いや、さやさんとしずるさんは
Because
仲
she
が
was
悪
in
かっ
love
たから
with
ね。
fucking Ayato's mother. She fucking hated Shizu for taking it from him. Kensei shook his head.
じゃあ
私が聞いている限り、綾子さんの父親は秀臣さんだよ。
Oh. Oh. God, I wasn't expecting that. Oh. So that means technically Ayako was Shizuru's sister, which would be Ayato's aunt. So sorry, Ayato, you did bust some guts up in someone you're blood related to. But wow, Hideyomi took advantage of Saya. I gotta imagine she took advantage. I can't imagine she would willingly sleep with an old man like that. Masuki was utterly speechless.
さやさんは大層リカさんを慕っていてね。リカさんが巫女としてこちらにいた頃からずっと世話をしていたようだから。
Yes.
彼女を奪ったしずるさんに嫉妬したのでしょうか。
そうだったのかもしれません。秀臣さんとちぎり、娘を授かり、リカさんから一時をもらって綾子と名付けたそうです。
So you're telling me Saya was like, I can't believe you took this woman from me. I wanted her. I'm gonna fuck your dad now? Because, like, on one hand, I do respect the pettiness of that. But also, that's just fucking wild. That certainly explains why their names are nearly identical. I regarded Masuki for a moment.
しかし随分と大胆な。それでいて周到な計画ですね。
I wonder if their identical upbringing was the reason no one could tell them apart. They'd also probably been born right around the same time. Wow. Wow. So was her plan to sabotage it all from the beginning? She wanted Ayako to be the one that gets married in just so she could fuck over Rika and be like, yeah, no, it won't be your daughter that sleeps with that boy. It will be mine. Fuck you. Wow. That's fucking wild, dude. Wow, so and what, Hideyomi just wanted to get his rocks off in a young girl, so he just said okay? She slept with Hideyomi just to get the fucking Hinagami blood in her. Just so she could have a Hinagami heir, essentially. Wow. Wow. That, damn. Not a plot twist I was expecting in the slightest. Saya must have gone ahead with her plan before Rika even got pregnant. Oh. She was trying to sabotage, she was trying to get ahead of the game. But it just so happened that Rika got knocked up at the same time.
影武者として育てるよう考えたのは母だったようです。彼女も似たようなことをやってたそうですから。
It stood to reason that it was the sister of a former oracle who would devise such a scheme.
でもそれならばどうしても解せないことがあります。なぜ巫女、さつきさんが死んだ後に綾子さんを巫女に据えなかったのですか？
That was something I've been pondering myself. Because she was meant to be a body double. That seems so incredibly obvious. Like, the body was strung up to make you believe she was dead. That's why she wouldn't marry into the family. She couldn't take the role of Satsuki anymore. And now that the mask of Satsuki was gone, she essentially had no identity. No one in the village knew Ayako.
それはできませんでした。
Gensei shook his head.
どうしても影武者として彼女が使えなかった理由があるようですね。
I could wager a guess of my own. Ayako wasn't qualified, Ayako disappeared, or Ayako had died too. I mean, she clearly was qualified. Yeah, that much we know. She either disappeared or she died too. See, that's the thing. I've already mentioned this before. I do have the guide pulled up on the other monitor. I do know what the right answer is, but I'm sitting here trying to like deduce it for myself. And I guess I can kind of see the logic. Because if she just disappeared, right? If she was just unknown, they would go looking for her until they found the truth, right? If she had just ran away, they would presume her alive until they knew for sure. So our list of bridal candidates wouldn't exist if they still had, if they still believed that Ayako could be alive. Right? But if she died as well, then that's why they would have to turn to the bridal candidates, because they would know for sure that she's gone and that there was no chance of her coming back. So I do see the logic in assuming that she had died as well. Because, yeah, because, I mean, Ayato completely disappeared, right? But it doesn't mean Shizuru started piping up more women in the hopes to sire another son. They simply assumed that he was alive somewhere, and until they had confirmation that he was dead, they were going to assume he was alive. So I definitely see the logic as to why it wouldn't be Ayako disappeared. And clearly Ayako was completely qualified to be the Oracle. Not only was she trained, had the looks and everything, but she also did technically have Hinagami blood going in her veins. So yeah, I guess Ayako had died as well.
綾子さんも亡くなっているからですね。
それはわかりません。
Okay, so
そ
they
う
never
な
had
の
any
かもしれません
confirmation.
が、
Kensei stumbled over his words. That mean Ayako was alive, but he didn't know where she was.
さつきさんの死によりこちらも警察の捜索が入ったそうですが、さらにさつきさんの殺害をさやさんが否定したことを綾人くんは聞いています。それが真実であるのならば、
Yeah, that much was
考えられる
obvious.
のは
It was very clear that one had killed the other. I didn't think Saya was the murderer at all in the first place. Ayako took Satsuki's place. Ayako and Satsuki were both killed. No, obviously Ayako murdered Satsuki. See, that's the thing. This is kind of what saying Ayako isn't alive is implying, is that they were both killed. But I don't believe they were both killed at the same time. I believe one killed the other, and then something happened to the other one later down the line. But yeah, Ayako definitely murdered Satsuki and fled.
綾子さんがさつきさんを殺害して逃亡した。
Gensei made no attempt to answer.
さつきさんを殺害できるのは存在自体伏せられていた綾子さんくらいでしょう。当時の捜査線上にも浮上しようがありませんからね。
確かあの日仕草家の人は全員雛神家で乾さんと共にいましたからね。誰にも犯行は不可能だったという結論に達したはずです。
そこにもう一人いれば犯行は可能ですね。その後の流れはさやさんがおっしゃった通りでしょう。さつきさんの死死を切除し遺体を貼り付けにした。その意図は後々考えるとして、今は殺人を行った後の綾子さんの足
Okay,
取り
so
で
did
す。
Saya take
こればかり
Okay.
は剣聖さんに聞かねばならないでしょう。
So Ayako isn't the one who put Satsuki's body on display. I forgot that Saya had said something about that. Saya did say she was the one who removed the limbs, right? She did admit to that. Obviously why she had them in the basement and whatnot. So I'm guessing Saya wanted to give a reason for the Hinagamis not to go after her daughter. And that's why she put the body on display like that. Is so like the whole village would know Satsuki's dead. So that way if the whole village knows that Satsuki is dead, then why would they want to find the body double? Bringing back the body double would only uncover that there had been, corruption and scandal behind the scenes. So if Saya chops off her limbs and sets her up on display like that, so the whole village is aware that Satsuki's dead, then the Hinagamis don't have a motive to go find Ayako. At least not to do it publicly. They could still, in private be like, sending out people to go find her, but there'd be no reason to bring her back to reprise her role as the Oracle. I do understand Saya's motives for that, for sure. I turn the conversation back over to Kensei.
彼女は土蔵にあった長持ちの中に隠れていました。
Kensei finally came clean.
あの中地下ですか？
いえ、普通に蓋を開け中に隠れていたそうです。そこでさやさんがさつきさんを解体するのを見ていたと。
Oh. She killed Satsuki, hid in the chest, Saya found the body, I guess Saya pieced together what had happened, did what she did, and while Saya was doing that, Ayako booked it? God damn. So you had to watch her own lookalike get hacked up from start to finish?
すぐに騒ぎになり、私は綾子さんをこの集落から遠ざけることにしました。乾さんもいましたし、警察の介入は避けられそうになかったからです。
Kensei was the good guy. I mean, I kind of figured. This whole time, Kensei kind of struck us as like someone who didn't want to be wrapped up in all this. He was just kind of forced to be a part of it because the family was what it was. So it doesn't surprise me too much that Kensei was the guy who's like, yeah, no, I helped her get the fuck out of here. That's why he said, like, oh, I wouldn't know if she were actually dead, right? Because he's just like, I just helped her get out. What happened after that? I don't know. I just helped her get out of here.
綾子さんはさつきさんを殺したことを認めましたか？
それは彼女もよく分かっていなかったようでした。さつきさんに取り込まれそうに。
Interesting phrasing. Satsuki tried to absorb her. Now, if we remember, Michiru told us about one of her memory about why she gouged her own eye out, saying she witnessed someone trying to absorb another. So they're bringing back that verb again, specifically absorb.
取り込まれる。殺されそうになったということでしょうか。
If that was true, then maybe an argument for legitimate self-defense could be made.
一つよろしいですか？
何でしょうか。
あなたは綾子さんを守りたかったのですか？
私は家族の将来を守りたかっただけです。
Get to admit the truth with a sigh.
そのためにあなたは全てをなかったことにしようとしたのですか？綾子さんがさつきさんを殺したことも、綾人くんがさやさんを殺したことさえも。
そうなりますね。何も申し開きすることはできません。
では土蔵の地下を埋めてしまったのも。
ええ、あそこはさやさんの妄執が詰まった場所です。彼女はリカさんを慕うあまり。
That was a shame. Since part of me wished we could dig it up and put all the pieces of her body back where they belong.
そこはそのままにしておく方がいいかもしれないな。
But I didn't want to literally dredge up Sai's obsession now that it had been buried. After all, it was Masaki who would suffer most in the end for it.
さやさんを病死としたのは黒谷委員ですか？
父と秀臣さんで決めたはずです。診断を下したのが宗さんなのかゆずるさんなのかは分かりませんが。
No turning down a request from Hitogata's bigwigs, huh?
時坂さん、私は
自分は警察ではありませんよ。
Interpreted
逮
Kensei.
捕されたいのであればどうぞ警察へ。しかし犯人隠匿及び証拠隠滅の罪の控訴時効は3年です。それにその犯人隠匿及び証拠隠滅の罪は親族をかばうものであった場合、
それでは
あなたが罪を悔い正直に事実を話してくれるだけで十分だと自分は思いますがね。
We finally look back to the reason I'd come here in the first place.
綾子さんは人に頼んで東京へ逃がしました。ですがその後は戦争もあり行方が分かっていません。
So, if we entertain the fact that Ayako might be alive, I know I clicked the option that assumed that she was dead, but if we entertain the theory that Ayako might be alive, now we gotta ask ourselves, would we have had any recollection of her? Would we have any way of possibly crossing paths with her? And you gotta think it'd be a woman about Masaki's age, right? Because they were raised at roughly the exact same time. Well, they were raised about roughly the same time when the original Satsuki was born. And she would have been born earlier than Ayato, even if just by 1 or 2 years. I doubt it would have been by much. So it still would have been roughly around Ayato's age, Ayato and Eiji's age in their 30s and whatnot. No. For a second, my brain entertained the idea of Huyumi, maybe. Because didn't she mention she was at one point involved with, like, religious people? Something? But I feel like if Huyumi were Ayako, she would have recognized because she's interacted with Masaki before. I feel like she would have recognized him immediately. But it is a possibility to consider. It is. Or maybe she did recognize him. And she recognized he was hiding his identity. She had her own identity to worry about. I think they ran into each other at Moonworld. or maybe at Reiji's place, but like there were witnesses, right? And they didn't. And even if Ayato had already come clean to Reiji about his identity, if Fuyumi happened to be Ayako, she would still be on edge about her own identity. Mayhaps, mayhaps. Mayhaps, mayhaps. Unfortunate indeed, but it all added up.
どなたに預けたのですか？
集落をよく訪れていた行商の方です。
では、その後の足取りは全くつかめていないのですか？
Watch his name, be like, oh, he was Junji Kayahara, and you'd be like, Kayahara?
残念ながら。
Gensei shook his head. My heart sank at this revelation, part of me holding out hope he was just lying. Suddenly the door opened.
お父さん、
なんだ弥生、想像しい。
ひながみさんからお電話で大旦那様の意識が戻ったって。
じいさんが
Muskie jolted to his feet.
はい。それで皆さんを呼ぶようにと。
The three of us all looked at each other.
行きましょう。
そうですね。
Though none of us said it, I could tell we were all thinking the same thing. Hideyome Hinagami's final moments had arrived at last. Okay, okay. Muskie and Reiji returned to the Hinagami estate with Kensei and Mia in tow.
おお、隼人君、何があったのかね。
わかりません。自分もじいさんの意識が戻って。
あやつの最後の力かもしれんな。
So his voice was somber. Muskie believed the same. He'd stayed the whole night by his grandfather's bedside, yet not once had the man woken up. Why, even his breathing had been erratic. But it had only been a few hours, it felt like an eternity of Muskie repeatedly checking his pulse, only to barely feel a heartbeat in return.
何の話をするのでしょうかね。
Muskie turned to Reiji.
俺がわかるわけないだろ
う。ですよね。
まあ、大体の予想はつくけどな。
やっぱり自分のことですかね。
腹はくくっておけよ。
Muskie hung his head, only to note that Reiji had brought the donation sledger with him.
どうしてそれを持ってきたんですか？
俺も彼に用事があるからな。前に来た時に話を聞く約束も取り付けてある。
いつの間にそんなことしていたんですか？
Muskie and Reiji entered the living room to find Mariko seated there.
綾人さん、
Mariko pointed in front of the hearth. Muskie did as he was
お
told.
じい様がお呼びです。
わかっています。
Muskie simply nodded.
それ、
Mariko's eyes focused on a point behind Masaki.
時坂さんでしたか。あなたも呼ばれておいでです。
Yeah, but you're pretty pissed about that, aren't you?
承知しています。
甚だ不本意ではありますが。
Yeah. Mariko rose to her feet.
こちらへ。
And with that, Masaki and the rest shuffled into Hideyomi's room.